Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Happy Wednesday, everyone. We've got a special guest today. But first, let me ask you a question. When you hear the words Florida man, what do you normally imagine? Do you normally imagine, hold on a second, I'm not ready to bring you on yet, buddy. Do you normally imagine crazy headlines like Florida man arrested for tossing gator into Wendy's, or Florida man accused of attacking girlfriend with banana? You've got loads of crazy Florida man headlines. Florida man wins election in a card game. Florida man tries trading live gator for beer. A Florida man found a grenade while fishing and then took the explosive to Taco Bell. So there's no shortage of crazy Florida man stories. But have you ever heard a headline like Florida man gets thrown out of press conference for asking questions? Because that's exactly what my guest today does. He's a journalist and he asks questions. He doesn't back down. It doesn't matter if it's the governor of Florida or the minority speaker of the House, minority leader of the House. He doesn't back down, and he's been thrown out of press conferences by the likes of Kevin McCarthy, Ron DeSantis, and others. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming this unassuming man. He is the author of Meet the Candidate book series. He is the executive editor of Occupy Democrats and the co-host of the podcast, The Report Card. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my friend and my fellow beard brother, Grant Stern.
Thanks for having me. What an intro. Gotta love it.
I still get a kick out of the applause there. So what is happening, my beard brother? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Primary night was last night, which is always a high point for people into politics. So we had the Florida primaries.
Before we cover the Florida primary, I have more pressing, more urgent, higher priority questions for you.
Okay.
And that first one is, I noticed you've copied my beard.
It was bound to happen. It's like a beard explosion here.
No, seriously. What possessed you to? Because I know why I grew my beard. His wifey loves the beard. But what's the deal with your beard there, Grant?
I always had a kind of shorter beard, and then it turned into a pandemic beard, and my girlfriend was like, I like this beard, and I'm like, I like it too. We're keeping it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just kind of so convenient, and then it got really long, like too long, and then I cut it, and now it's actually nice and short. Can't you tell?
No, you passed me, bro. You passed me. You made my beard look like a little brother beard.
They keep telling me to use this beard balm, and it is, I don't know. I don't use it. This is just how my beard is.
Well, it is, let me say, from one beard brother to another, it is marvelous.
Oh,
marvelous.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, my friend. Definitely.
Now, tell me about these Meet the Candidate books, and I see that Scott Dworkin is also on these too. What is the deal? How did you start doing these, and are you still do you have candidates? Do you have books like this for the current crop of candidates for midterms?
So, unfortunately, the publishers did not come to us for the midterms. They came to us actually in 2019 when it was obvious that it was going to be a big field, and they asked Scott and I to collaborate, and we were very happy to do it. Um, Scott actually wrote the introductions for these books, and then I wrote the other 8 or 9 chapters of, biography and political position, and then analysis of their campaign. And it turned out really well because we chose really well. We chose the best of the best. I mean, they were talking to me about whether I should do a book for Andrew Yang or, you know, Senator
Oy.
Gillibrand, and neither of them campaigned too long, but
Hmm.
we chose Elizabeth Warren because we thought she'd be there till the end, and Joe Biden, and Mayor Pete, and Senator Booker. Um, and it was fascinating for me as somebody who's really into politics to actually get to spend the time to deep dive each candidate. And they were surprised when we turned in the manuscripts for these books because they thought that we would just be paraphrasing Wikipedia for 130 pages. But I'm an actual journalist, and I whipped out my Nexus account and went at it and dug through sources that you just can't get on Google. And it's amazing how when you put together so many facts about an individual's life that a picture starts to emerge. And that's what you can see in these books. That was the goal of them too. So
Did you get to interview any of those candidates, like live in person?
I think they were all too afraid to sit for an interview during the primary. We asked everybody, we gave everybody the opportunity to pipe up. Um,
Now, was it just Democratic candidates or was it Republican candidates as well?
Donald Trump was the only
Oh,
Republican
yeah.
candidate in a lot of the
Well,
primaries
actually,
that year.
Joe Walsh. Joe
Joe
Walsh
Walsh
did
was in the
run.
primary too. That's
He
right.
was he
We
wasn't
asked him
allowed to
about that.
debate or anything.
I asked them after we did the 6 Democrats. I was like, could we do Joe Walsh or Bill Weld? Right? Wasn't it Bill Weld?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, they literally were like, even Republicans don't want to know about these guys. And I was like, oh, I mean, I guess it's that kind of primary for them. I'd be interested to see. It's funny you asked about this because I was going to ask them. Like, I was just thinking about this like yesterday. Like, hey, do they want me to write some books about the Republican candidates? Because let me tell you, those would be interesting reading.
I think 2024 is going to be a very, very small field, I think.
Really?
Unless Donald Trump announces that he is not running, it's going to be a small field. You're looking at DeSantis, and who else is really going to mount any kind of serious challenge? I see it's between DeSantis and Trump. Am I wrong?
You know, that's the conventional wisdom, but I got to tell you, even if Trump is running, I think there's a chance that we're going to see another clown car in the Republican primary, similar to what we
Mm.
saw in 2016. And I'll tell you why. I live in Miami, which is as Billy Corbin likes to say, a sunny place for shady people. But I
Hmm.
was born here, so I didn't just come here looking for trouble. And we have a mayor here who has amazing eyebrows and ambitions that are much bigger than those eyebrows.
Who's your
Um,
mayor?
Mayor Francis Suarez, he believes that he's going to be like the next Mayor Pete. Yeah, he's already, he's already dropping hints in the media that he'd like to run in 2024, which
And
is,
wait,
I mean,
Which
it's pretty
city is
crazy.
that?
The city of Miami, where I live, a city of 500,000 people.
Wow.
Miami-Dade County is 2.5 million people. It's the whole entire enchilada here.
Hmm.
But we're talking about a guy whose official duties, he's a weak mayor. So his official duties are nothing more than cutting ribbons and vetoing legislation, which he doesn't do very often. And he's like, I'm the mayor. I'm going to be the president. And that's right now. There's no, like, after the midterms and in early January, after the midterm is the traditional time when candidates look to jump into the race early. Like
Hmm.
that January and February, it's like it's always like a race for people to see who declares first, who goes to Iowa, like the whole political circus cycle of primaries picks up at that point.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I'm not expecting it to be as quiet as people think. I think that yes, DeSantis and Trump look like the two front runners, but nobody really knows what it looks like. I don't think that the Republican Party is going to shut the primary down for Trump this year.
Well, so
for next
here's
year.
my theory. The reason why I don't think too many people will wade in that pool is because in order for them to be effective, they're basically going to have to attack the guy who none of them want to even say a harsh word about. They were going to have to go head to head on that guy. Otherwise, it's a farce.
Well, you bring that up, but there is a third way candidate that we didn't mention yet, which is Mike Pence. And he's been doing exactly what you're talking about. Not running for president while not attacking Trump for trying to murder him for
Nobody's
doing his
paying.
job.
Not
It's
even the
mind blowing.
fly. The fly is not paying attention to Mike Pence. Nobody is.
You know what? That in Nevada, I think it is. Pence came. No, I'm sorry, Arizona. Pence's preferred gubernatorial candidate came within a hair of Carrie Lake, and Carrie Lake is somebody who would be very difficult to beat in a primary because of her name recognition.
Mm.
Like a good example is a result from last night in Florida. Rebecca Jones won in CD one,
Yes.
and
I was happy about that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, as somebody who's reporting on what's happening, most of the reports I hear, people are not happy. But she has tremendous name recognition, and in a primary, that counts for a whole lot. Um,
Well,
so
let's go ahead and jump right into the midterms. What I
oh
wanted to
yeah,
start off with is the Pat Ryan win. So not very many people were even aware of Pat Ryan. He's like he's a guy running in a special election, and I think it was District 19 of New York. Like,
right.
it's not too many people paying attention to
It was like a Trump
local New
plus
York
two district,
politics.
right?
It was
Or Trump minus two.
I
It was a
think
swing
it was
district,
R plus four. It was
right?
Republican. It was a plus four Republican district, and he was not expected to do as well as he did. This kind of knocked everybody for a loop. They were using this. A lot of people were regarding this race as like the canary in the coal mine, and I just want to get your thoughts about did his win affect you in the way that it affected a lot of the politicos and the people who know what this kind of thing means.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that this is it's the kind of firsthand evidence you need that there has been a major political shift. And let's be real here, okay? This is as a result of what the top Republican political strategist in America has decided, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's only one guy in Republican politics in America that's deciding on their election strategy for this year and probably several years to come. Maybe even through the rest of the decade. We'll see how long it takes. But that strategist is named Samuel Alito, and he wears a black robe when he's not making fun of people at the Vatican.
Yeah.
And he is absolutely looking like probably the worst Republican political strategist, in addition to the most widely read. So, it's just showing you that politics matters. And when you have a party whose entire political platform is like a dog chasing cars, eventually they're going to catch the damn car
I don't know what to do
and
with it.
not know what to do with it. Maybe they'll get run over. And it's starting to look like here we are in an election year that by all historical standards, short of the 9/11 attacks on America, the incumbent party always loses ground in the first midterm election.
Yep.
So I mean what it tells you is that the Republican attack on civil rights in America has reached such an epic proportion that it's literally a 911 level tragedy that's been inflicted on the American people, and they are galvanized to fight against it, and they are responding. And by they, I mean women of America in particular, but men too, because you know, Brooklyn dad, I'm a dad too, and
Yep.
we got girlfriends, wives,
I,
daughters,
I'm a
some of
girl
us
dad.
sons. Yeah,
I don't want I can't have my daughter growing up in a country that will not respect her right to choose.
that's right. Same here with my daughter.
Now, Pat Ryan was a bit of a surprise to the political world, but Val Demings. We kind of already knew that she was leading the fight to take on and to depose, to fire Marco Rubio. Do you what as a Florida journalist and as someone who pays attention to politics, does Val Demings have a legitimate shot at unseating Marco Rubio?
So Val Demings is absolutely by far the very worst candidate to take on Marco Rubio if you're a Republican.
Oh.
Gotcha.
You did get me there.
They are not happy with this choice. This is everything they don't want. One of the big problems in Florida is factionalism in the Democratic Party. And Val Demings is someone who can unite all the disparate factions. She's somebody who held a historic position in the House, not just served on the backbench and, like, for example, the last member of the House that we had run against Rubio, a gentleman named Patrick Murphy. He's a lovely guy, and he was a member of the House for, I think, 4 years, from a swing district, whose father is a tremendous construction magnate.
Mm-hmm.
This is so different. She bootstrapped herself. She did not have some wealthy background to help carry her through things. She can bring together the more conservative elements of the party along with the progressives, because the House is certainly the bastion of progressive politics in the Democratic world today. And then, she can't be, they've attacked her, believe it or not, or at least they've tried. They've tried some attacks on her because she's a police officer, and they've lined up some other cops to talk bad about her. And
that's crazy.
It's like, on the one hand, it doesn't stick with Democrats. They're like, no, whatever. But even with Republicans, it just comes off as disingenuous. And with people in the middle, I think they're going to, people they're going to lean to Democrats are going to look at this message and go, gosh, she's probably the right person. And that's why she's such a difficult candidate for them to attack. They can't use the same tropes. And now and I'm just going from gut here, I'm not like reporting, but now she has the opportunity to take the defund the police narrative from the manager of this hotel in Palm Beach and club and low security top secret document repository, and use his demands along with his CrossFit trainer in Georgia's demands to defund the FBI. And turn it right against them. So this is going to be absolutely a wild election, and I can't wait to see their debates. It's going to be exciting.
The GOP has quickly become the party of lawlessness and disorder, and like we're in the upside down. The Democrats are all about the law and order now, and there's a misconception that I want to address. Like Republicans had been the party of law and order because they basically supported policies that never check cops on their shitty, murderous behavior. The bad cops, and so it made it kind of look like, by comparison, we Democrats, we're lawless. We just want riots and, looting and blah, blah, blah. And that's not the case at all. I'm a Democrat. And you know what? I never agreed with that defund the police thing. I have property. Somebody tries to steal my property. I'm not pulling out a shotgun to shoot them. I'm calling the cops and saying,
oh yeah.
We approve of cops that aren't trying to kill us. I think that's pretty much right.
Probably a good
We're
idea.
in agreement there.
I mean, I like it when my police officers don't try to kill me, which unfortunately is less often than I would like. I mean, there's another video that, it actually has quite a few plays, but it's a little old. And I was reporting on a DUI checkpoint. Friend of mine created this thing called the Fair DUI flyer, and it was a flyer that he's a criminal defense lawyer. It was a flyer they're supposed to hold up at a checkpoint because criminal defense lawyers and civil libertarians have said for years that DUI checkpoints tend to violate people's rights, engage in illegal searches and seizures. And what it said was, no searches. I remain silent. I want my lawyer. Seems easy. And then you put it in a bag, and you put your ID in a bag, and you hold it out the window because of the old smell test. Remember, which by the way went away in Florida because of legal medical marijuana, where cops would just say, "I smelled weed," and then they would search your car. So I go through the DUI checkpoint. They decide to arrest him over what ensues. And then, I'm a journalist. I'm in a marked car. That's our journalism car. We let him drive the journalism car. There's a cameraman outside who had interfaced with the PIO. And I get out of the car. And then a police officer from the city of Miami staffing this, there was different jurisdictions, comes up to me and says, "You're lucky you didn't get fragged." Wow. And I mean, there's just no other reason to do that except to chill journalism. But it's sad because he's right. I mean, I've had a lot of interactions with the police as a journalist, and I mean, you could see them all on tape. They're all, I'm never like raising a ruckus, and oftentimes they're threatening with arrest and worse, and just for no reason. So, I mean, I just want to go back to the original thing, which is that Democrats have always been law and order. It's just that Republicans seized that mantle during the days of Nixon and never, ever, ever let it go. And it was by starting the drug war and turning it into a drug war jobs program for people that were in the system. And so over the years, there was this terrible, destructive race to the bottom between both parties, honestly, that culminated in all of the harsh, the harsh sentencing and ideas of the 1990s, where both parties, the Democrats said, well, okay, we're going to be law and order too. But there was other things going on. There was a rising crime wave apart from the drug war of violent crime that peaked in the early 1990s and receded. If you read Mother Jones, they actually Kevin Drum published an amazing story that's called Lead, the Real Criminal Element. And it really connects to what we've seen if you consider Freddie Gray, the poor young man in Baltimore who was given a rough ride by Baltimore PD and lost his life.
Grant, I'm sorry to sure. cut you off there, but I want to kind of try to steer us back to the.
We're all tangented here
to the midterms and the primaries last night.
Yeah,
because
so
there's a
I mean,
big one.
Hey, the Democrats are officially the law and order party again, I think, but in a better way than the first time around. I think we can all agree.
Indeed. The big one, I think, last night, and this was kind of one that I had been waiting for a very long time, was between Nikki Fried and Charlie Crist. And Charlie Crist kind of ran away with it. It wasn't close at all. And I had deliberately stayed out of tweeting about this. The only tweet that I put out was basically, I don't care who wins, Charlie Crist or Nikki Fried. Whoever it is, we have to rally behind against Ron DeSantis. And
that's right.
I said that because there's some Bernie bros who still have not forgiven me for going after Bernie during the primaries. They said, like, it's my fault that he did not advance. Yeah, me, like all powerful.
I mean, I'm sure it's all you, bro. You know, you're his campaign manager, right?
But
were you the guy that wrote the tweet that I'm coming for the establishment of both parties? It must have been you.
No.
Okay. Well, that guy deserves most of the blame or credit.
But I will say this, though.
Yeah.
I was never really sold, to be perfectly honest, was not sold on Charlie Crist. And it's just because he's already been the governor of Florida. So, yeah, he's got the name brand recognition, but it also, to me, it kind of felt like, who do we got here, guys? Who do we have to go up against? What about him? No, it's too young. What about him? Well, no, not too old. What about this one? He's been governor before. It almost felt like Do you remember the election in Virginia, Terry McAuliffe?
Yes.
To me, and it's just that I'm not acquainted with Florida politics to the level that you are. It just in my gut, it felt like I don't know. I mean, I could have gone either way. I could have gone for Nikki Fried or Charlie Crist. Doesn't matter to me because I'm not a Florida voter. But at the same time, I want the person who is best suited to win. And this was the major issue between these two candidates, Nikki Fried and Charlie Crist. What's your opinion? Who did the best candidate win?
So that's a great question. And this for me was a very difficult primary because I know both of them. I really respect and love both of them for what they do in the political space. They were honestly, it's like on the one hand, as Democratic voters, we were spoiled to have two high quality candidates like the two of them running
Yeah.
in one race. But as somebody who covers it and knows them, I was dreading it because I didn't want to see the animosity and primaries and politics are tough. So I feel that the fact that Charlie won actually speaks to the fact that he is the best candidate to take on Ron DeSantis this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you consider, yes, he is not new. In fact, Nikki Fried's campaign slogan was something new,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Democratic voters obviously decided they don't want something new. To bring in an idea that I learned from writing about all these folks in the presidential primary into this Florida primary, it's that political brand matters a lot. And Nikki Fried's political brand is a lot newer than Charlie Crist's.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie Crist's political brand is a lot newer to the Democratic Party than it is overall, but still not quite as new as Nikki's. And I think that made a big difference in some ways. Also, Charlie earned the endorsements of the more progressive wing of the Florida Democratic Party.
Hmm.
And that's, I think, why the race was not as close as people thought it might be.
Wow.
Nikki
Okay.
consistently said that she was running a general election campaign. And I was kind of surprised. I read the Washington Post and they said that Nikki Fried was running to Charlie Crist's left. And as somebody who's here and on top of this stuff like a hawk, I was like, no, she kind of ran to Charlie's right, to be quite honest,
Uh-huh.
which was
I saw
interesting.
some attack ads criticizing her for funding campaigns of Republicans and stuff like that. Yeah.
She worked as a lobbyist before she became a politician. And so, yeah, she had to work with people on both sides of the aisle because, newsflash, Republicans control 2/3 of the state legislature here. They have super majorities in both bodies now. They
Mm.
didn't have super majorities the last decade, but they've always had a very solid majority. So if you wanted to get something done in Tallahassee, you had to go through Republicans. She went to college with Ashley Moody. You know, people have personal relationships, and that's part of politics. If it's not, then we wouldn't be people, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be politics. It would be literal war.
Right.
Um, so I think that voters may have punished her for that, but it wasn't just that. I think that um, Charlie did something different than he has in his last two, actually three statewide elections, or four. Let me just explain. So he was attorney general as a Republican. Then he got elected governor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as the Florida governor, he actually represented the best of the tradition of very independent, not super partisan governance by both parties in Florida. And he did things like creating the expedited clemency commission to review as many felons to reinstate their rights as possible. These are not things that were left or right, but let's be real. His successor, Rick Scott, used to ask people who they're going to vote for and then decide on their clemency. And it turned into a civil rights lawsuit, and eventually Amendment 4, which passed, but the Republicans passed a poll tax to add onto it.
Mm.
So Charlie Crist was very different when he was in office. He didn't let the fact that President Obama was a Democrat and Republicans were demonizing him stop him from the business of governing with President Obama. They
Right.
punished him for it. They ran him out of the party when he was running for Senate. He ran as an independent and lost to Rubio. Um, And then in 2014, he ran again, right? He had rebirthed himself as a Democrat
Mm-hmm.
and ran with Annette Taddeo as his lieutenant governor choice. She just won her election in
She
FL
won. Yeah,
27.
I saw that.
Everybody follow her at Annette underscore
DD.
TADDEO double
Right.
D to Annette Taddeo. Um, and at the time it was like he didn't have obviously any Republican Party support. He had the Democratic Party support. That primary was not as difficult or as high profile. I think I felt like that was an easier primary for him than this one, even though this one was a wide margin. But then he went to Congress in 2016. And that's where the big differences lie. That by going to Congress, he was still serving he was serving a Democratic constituency all these years. And he became a lot closer with House Democratic leadership and the Speaker's office, and that brings you into the national organs of the party and the national groups that support the party. So he's got a lot more of that national support to bring to Florida that he didn't have in 2014. And that's why I think he united the party around his candidacy, including like Anna Eskamani, for example, the state representative from Orlando. I think that Charlie Crist won a lot of progressive votes during this cycle that he probably wouldn't have won in the 2014 cycle or in necessarily the 2018 cycle. And so, having a connection with all of these different groups and interests and having this greater experience in Democratic politics, I could see it in the way that he handled the entire primary. And
So
I
what's
think
your
it's a big difference. So it's good for him in the sense that I think he's primed to really drive the base turnout along with Val Demings. It's like having two really good anchors at the top of the ticket. I'm hoping will bring a lot of people out to vote for Democrats because I'll be honest with you, when you go further south on the ticket, except for races like Annette Taddeo
mhm.
or former state rep Robert Asensio running in Florida 28 against the former mayor of Miami, Carlos Jimenez, who's a representative that voted to overturn the election on his third day in office. Except for a couple of close races like that, I don't see a lot of close races here in Florida. So Charlie really has to lift all the tide of all the boats. It's up to him.
So basically what you're telling me is Brooklyn Dad, don't worry about it. We picked the right candidate, and you believe that that Ron DeSantis with his $140 million war chest is beatable.
Well, that's a different question. Money has always dominated politics in Florida, and a good example is Rick Scott, now Senator Rick Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Scott spent an ungodly amount of money getting into office in 2010 and an even more ungodly amount of money in 2014 against Charlie Crist. And Charlie Crist was 64,000 votes away. In 2018, Ron DeSantis won by 33,000 votes
Against Gillum.
against Gillum. Right. So the amount of money is staggering, and it's definitely Ron DeSantis's biggest advantage. So, I mean, the
No other governor has raised that kind of money before.
no way. I mean, it's not even close. And the fact of the matter is that he's very popular with the Republican donor class, much more popular than the guy that's doing the dishes at Mar-a-Lago when he's not scrubbing the documents.
Hey, let me
Um,
let me ask you this. Earlier today, I heard something that Charlie Crist said that I'm not sure was a great idea, and you correct me if I'm wrong. His thing is that if you are a DeSantis voter, I don't want you. If you vote for hate, et cetera, we don't want you. We are only interested in people who are about love. Now, I understand where he's coming from. Like you want to be the candidate of love. You want to establish yourself in that
Good time,
in that
Charlie.
arena. What's that?
We call him Good Time Charlie. He's got a lot of fans. Like actual
I
fans.
understand.
He puts them under the desk and stuff. I wish I had one right now myself, so I could understand.
I understand that. I'm worried. Do you think he's prematurely like they're just? I'm just afraid Republicans are going to take that soundbite and run that shit up and down his campaign. What do you
Look,
think?
man, you could say "I love babies," and they would take the soundbite and turn it into something hideous. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Like, I don't know if you remember the deep fakes with Speaker Pelosi, where they made it look like she was slurring her words.
Yeah.
Now that clip is going to come back, and they're going to be like, Grant Stern slurs his words.
Oh.
But you know, it just doesn't matter. They always seize on something and then just repeat it as soon as they find the 3-letter phrase or the 3-word phrase they want, and they bumper sticker it. Um, I think that it's a problem that Democrats don't spend enough time learning from the bumper stickers of our time, like things like hashtags, and actually like taking those hashtags and turning them into political slogans, because that's what they are. They're like bumper stickers, for gosh sakes,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Except that instead of being stuck on the highway and traffic, we're stuck on the internet highway, with troll traffic.
How on earth did Florida vote for Matt Gaetz to continue? I mean, even his own. I understand it's a primary, right? But I
Sure.
mean, was there nobody better than this suspected child sex trafficker?
Well, being the Panhandle, I can't answer it definitively because it's about 500 miles away. But I'm saying I guess so. But I did before the show, believe it or not, I was looking at something related to that because I was thinking the same thing. And Matt Gaetz's primary vote share keeps dropping. If you look at each primary he's been in, it keeps dropping steadily by about 8%,
Mm.
which is not a good show for an incumbent. Like the primary, just his primary percentage, his win percentage keeps going down. So he won under 2/3 of the vote this time. So that makes him a pretty weak incumbent. Rebecca Jones won, and she won with 62.5% of the vote. That makes her a pretty darn strong challenger. But, and here's the big caveat, so many fewer people voted in the Democratic primary than in the Republican primary.
Mm.
So there is that issue. We don't know if that 30% of Republicans and then a big chunk of independents are going to vote for Rebecca. But what I'll tell you is this, and this is something that's very important about politics. These races, these sometimes high profile but low probability of success races, are very important because they force the other side to spend resources and time defending seats that they wouldn't otherwise. And there was a study in the New York Times last year that basically said that when Democrats ran candidates in every district and ran seriously, it actually became a tide that lifted all of the boats.
Mm-hmm.
So, somebody was asking me, like, is she going to win? I'm like, in theory, anybody can win. It's an election. I mean, he's not going to get arrested. At this point, we're past the point where the DOJ is going to make an arrest on anything for any reason because it's now political. But I'll tell you this, in that district, I looked at the history of the general elections, and the Democratic vote share has been going steadily upward. Okay. So, that's how change happens in politics, one election at a time. If Rebecca Jones were to win 40% of the vote in this election, that would represent a tremendous leap forward for Democrats in Florida's Panhandle, an area that used to be represented by Joe Scarborough, who was, one of the Gingrich folks. And, I mean, that's how change happens. So
Do you not
if
think
that's
she
the
has
case,
a
that's the case.
Do you not think she has a legitimate shot at beating Gaetz in
Look,
the
in every
midterm?
election, people have a legitimate shot. Anything can happen, right? I mean, we
What I
just
mean is, Is she more of a Hail Mary? I mean, yeah, sure. Any football team can win a game, on a
On any
fluke,
given
right? But
Sunday, right, right.
right. But what I mean is, this the name of this episode, by the way, is you are Florida man reads the D leaves, right?
I like it.
So I'm asking you to read these D leaves and tell me what you think. Seriously, do is it an uphill battle for Rebecca Jones
Of
or
course it is. This is a very Republican district.
okay?
Miami had in from 2018 to 2020, Miami had 4 Democratic representatives and only 1 Republican. We lost 2 of those seats in 2020. Okay. But the one that stayed is the one I want to focus on. That's Mario Diaz-Balart. I wrote a story about him, which my editor's entitled Congressman Diaz-Balart Dupes Banks. Get it? Diaz-Balart Dupes Banks. DB, DB. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, okay.
Little alliteration, subtle alliteration, right? And so the year before I wrote that story, he faced a candidate who had about $40,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously not a very strong candidate. She won 40% of the vote. Okay. The year that I wrote the story exposing that this guy had committed mortgage fraud, and then CBS, the local CBS affiliate, wrote an entire story about how he and his brother got into a bunch of foreign lobbying operations together.
Mm-hmm.
The D Trip spent $2 million on a strong candidate, backed her to the hilt and ran a very strong race. And she won 40% of the vote. So, I mean, I'm telling you that sometimes the dynamics of the districts it's not going to happen. In this district with Matt Gaetz, the last candidate, I think, won 36.5% of the vote. It was Phil Eyre. Maybe she won, maybe Phil even won only like 32.5, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, if she wins 40%, this is actually a big stepping stone for Democrats. It's
You're
like
looking
back
at the
in the game.
long you're looking at
Right.
the long game, not
Could
the
she win it? Yeah. Hey, I mean, anything could happen. It's an election, right? Matt
Mhm.
Gaetz could break down and cry and admit that he's okay with child sex trafficking. I mean, he
Ugh.
voted against all the sex trafficking bills in the House and in the Florida House. So, I mean, it's conceivable that she could win, but the dynamics of the district are obviously not favorable for Democrats. That's just the truth of the matter.
That's what I was getting at. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk a minute about the climate for Democrats. It appears that
Is that Dark
things
Brandon? Where's his lightning bolts?
I love the
That's his
Dark
twin
Brandon
brother, isn't it?
memes. They kill me with the glowing eyes. Those are hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the past month or two have just been actually just the past year has been a non-ending winning streak. At one after the other, he's keeping his promises, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act, Chips and Science Act, the PACT Act for veterans, gun legislation, took out the leader of Al Qaeda, job growth, low unemployment, NATO, the American Rescue Plan, like all these things he's racked up. And you would think that his approval ratings would be much higher. They've gone up. I saw one rating yesterday or the day before. He was up to 47%. I think it was Rasmussen, which I never even ever pay attention to, but I happened to see that.
I assigned that poll as a story and we wrote it for OccupyDemocrats.com. And it's I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up. But I'll tell you, this is look, every midterm election, there are 3 things that a party should focus on. What are those 3 things? I can't tell you with every election, but there should be 3 things. I mean, there's a
The
contract for
economy.
America. No, the economy, but I'm saying 3 issues, right?
Uh-huh.
For Democrats, it was, I think in 2018, I believe it was healthcare. I don't think it was jobs. I forget what the third one, and then it was accountability was the third one. That was Trump. But I'm blanking on what the second one was. I have to go back to our interview with the speaker and listen. But in this particular election, women's rights,
Yeah.
Choose any economic thing, whether it's infrastructure, healthcare, jobs, student loans, helping veterans. Pick your choice. But the third thing is Joe Biden's approval rating, and it's up 10 points in that Rasmussen poll in the last month. That 47%, I went and looked. That 7% is the highest in an entire year. And if you look at Joe Biden's approval ratings, it all started trending down after Afghanistan, and now it's swinging sharply back up, right? Why? Media coverage. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the media decides whether they think there's good sentiment or bad sentiment. They put it out there, and then pollsters poll what people think about someone, when in reality, if you just look at media sentiment, you'll see how polling and media sentiment often track each other. A great example, the FT, Financial Times, pulled out, which was about immigration in the UK. And they found that the more the Daily Mail covered immigration issues, the more the public cared about it. And even though immigration is higher there in the UK after Brexit, the public doesn't care because the media wasn't covering it. So,
interesting.
President Biden's welfare and approval rating should be on the top of every Democrat's minds. The way that I was talking about Charlie and Val having to lift all boats in Florida, the fact of the matter is, getting President Biden's approval rating back over 50, which I think that his incredible slate of accomplishments just in the last 45 days has done, and it needs to continue to do. And, here you can always look at the gas prices, another proxy for what's happening with someone.
They've been dropping for over 60 straight days, right?
Right. And today is day 70 if it dropped today. I mean, I haven't checked yet. Yesterday was day 69, a special one. But there, I brought my special effects. You like it? But that's the tide. Oh, yours has the longer. God, man, so cool on this show. And that's really important. That's really important for us as Democrats, because that's like the third leg in our stool, since we're the party in power. Even, when you're the challenger, like Democrats were the challenger, checking Trump was the third leg in the stool, holding him accountable. And it still is a leg in our stool. But this year it's women's rights, democracy, and Joe Biden. Those are our three big issues. I mean, Dark Brandon. All hail Dark.
So here's another big win for Dark Brandon, aka President Biden.
He's on a roll.
It was the student loan debt deal. It's a very, very big deal, where he's talking about granting debt forgiveness for $10,000 to families earning less than $125K, and $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients, and a pause on payments until December 31st. Now, there's been some debate on both sides. The people on the right, they're like, hey, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, you should too. And then actually on the far left, their argument is it's not enough. But you know what? God damn it, it's something. And speaking as a dad who put 3 sons through college, it ain't cheap, right? And if somebody's offering to cut me a break on 10 grand, yeah, I'll take that. Thank you very much. Because nobody's ever done that before. At least not when I was putting my kids through college. They weren't doing that. So yep. That would be greatly appreciated. And why shouldn't we care about the future of America? America's future are the kids who are going to college now. We want them to be smart, don't we?
Oh, we sure do. I mean, look, I view this as a generational apology. And I'll tell you why. Because when our parents, your and my parents, the baby boomers, went to college, states subsidized up to 80% of what was going on in state schools. The federal government stepped in with the Pell Grants and loan programs to fill in the gaps. I was a Pell Grant recipient when I went to college. Okay. Like I didn't grow up in like any lapse of luxury, you know. I grew up with a single mom,
Same.
um, and it's like, you know, our parents' generation, the boomers, they're the ones who voted in all of the austerity, all of the Republican tax cuts, where they bled all of the support for all of the important things societally out of the system and said, we're going to go with personal responsibility. Well, I didn't take that much in student loans, but I got to tell you, as a 45-year-old who took these
Hmm.
loans when he was 18,
Yeah.
nobody that's 18 years old can understand the terrible obligation you're taking on with a student loan at the
You're
age of 18.
working. You're working
You
to
just
pay
can't.
off that goddamn loan.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever. I mean, they never go away. Once you defer the loan, they double, then they keep doubling, they double again, they double, they double, they double. And it's like, okay, you know, it's just a system that was designed to funnel cash back to our parents because they said, well, we went up the ladder and we're pulling it up behind us. So
Yeah.
these student loans, you know, they were not intended to finance people's college careers. They were supposed to fill in the gaps.
Hmm.
Okay. But the tax cut movement, when it moved from the feds to the states and took over state houses, that's where these federal loans came in. And, you know, a lot of them are private loans at higher interest rates. And the fact of the matter is that they were given with the understanding between student, college, and lender that these loans were supposed to be the path to advancement.
Hmm.
But the reality became that these loans got you jobs that didn't pay enough to pay the loan and to get a place to live. And as a professional mortgage broker, someone who's in finance, like that's where I came from before I started in journalism or politics. And, you know, I'm still active. And I can tell you that the biggest hurdle that young people face is almost always dealing with the student loans. It is holding back the building block of our economy, which is household formation. That's the economist term for people getting together and making some babies and then buying a house and doing all the rest of the things you have to do. Because as a dad, you know that having a child means that you're about to buy everything in every store once, twice, or three times, run through it, send it
Yeah.
to your relatives, you know, all this crazy stuff. When you have a baby, it's like, you're like, I mean, seriously, when I say household formation, you know what I'm talking about when the baby arrives, you know,
Hmm.
because like you have a house and then it fills up with stuff and you're like, where did all
Yeah.
this come from? Um, so yeah, this is a great step towards actually accomplishing some very conservative goals of more babies. So what's wrong with that?
So what I heard you say a few minutes back when we were talking about the Biden wins,
Yes.
and you kind of
Dark Brandon
alluded,
wins. Dark Brandon.
right, right. You alluded back to what we were talking about with Charlie Crist and Val Demings, kind of being that tide that raises all boats. Is this yet another win for Dark Biden that can help raise the tide for everybody running for office, for all, you know, House and Senate seat? You know, what do you think?
I definitely think it is because as unpopular as it is with the Republican chattering class and Fox News, people that receive this, it's going to be popular with them. I mean, and it's going to affect a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
um, a whole lot of
Millions.
people, and the people it's going to affect the most are people like teachers, firefighters, police officers. Like something like 8% of police officers, I think it is, have college degrees, but you know, they're actually pretty sought after. You know, like I remember that Miami Beach's police department wanted to restrict all hiring to college grads. This is a big bonus to people who have worked hard, played by the rules, went to college to get ahead, to get
Mm-hmm.
educated. You know, their country is finally giving back to them by, you know, helping, giving them the educational support that they should have had sometime in the past.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I think the only thing that could help, one thing that could help President Biden and the entire Democratic Party is if we all keep talking about it, because that shit always gets left by the wayside. You know, there's like
Well,
when
about
I
that,
showed
but
you that
also the
graphic,
CHIPS Act. We're trying to Joe Biden's bringing high-tech manufacturing
manufacturing.
back. The
Yeah.
PACT Act, you have veterans who were affected by burn pits and could not get medical help because of it. We have one of those
Hmm.
owner-occupied Democrat staff,
Yeah.
you know? Um, yeah.
Grant,
I was
let
upset
me,
by that when that didn't pass. That really upset all of us. And when it
yeah,
did pass, it was just it was political gamesmanship at its worst. And Jon Stewart, God bless him,
he's the
he's
man.
the perfect guy to point that out.
Indeed. Thank you for sharing that, Grant, and I apologize for stepping on you expressing this very important, very emotional deal. Yeah.
Look, you know, what the Biden administration has done hasn't been done by anybody pretty much since Lyndon B. Johnson. I mean, the bipartisan nature of it,
Hmm.
getting a red flags law for the entire country, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Banning the weapons purchases by people under the age of 21. If you look at all of these spectacular mass shootings, they're all people under the age of 21. I mean, not all of them, but like the last 6 months of them, they're almost all young men
Yeah.
who this law would have prevented from getting these guns. Um, these are big deals, people. Big fucking deals. We can say that on this show, right?
Absolutely.
Good.
And
Okay.
let me talk about another big deal. Right. Recently, a lot of thought pieces have started coming out talking about President Biden should pardon Donald Trump. And I saw this and I thought, is are we having April Fool's Day again in August? What the fuck is going on here? And no, these are
These are
so-called
real.
serious people. I can't imagine
I wouldn't call them
you.
serious people.
No, I can't imagine calling someone a serious person when finally, after what is it, 5 years, 7 years, whatever, how long it's been, finally we have some real shit on this guy. His own, this espionage thing,
It's
the
not finally. We've
Mar-a-Lago,
had real shit
the
on this guy for years. Hello. The
no,
Mueller
no,
memo
no,
came out today.
no. What I mean is, this is the thing. He's got his fingerprints all over the documents. He's got the documents.
They're fingerprinting the documents, by the way. I heard.
He's got a dozen different explanations for they planted it on no they, I declassified it no I need it back, all this shit, and now you want to pardon him in the name of, they're saying, if you pardon him so that we can as a peace offering, so we can reunite the country. Is that going to make a difference?
You know,
If Donald, if Joe
hey,
Biden
I've got an
pardons
idea.
Donald Trump,
I've got an idea. Hey, let's pardon Russia for invading Ukraine. So sorry we sanctioned you, Putin. It was such a mistake. You're going to learn from us, rewarding you for it, right? Oh, sure. I mean, how did that work with Hitler? Neville Chamberlain appeased Hitler because appeasement was better than war. This is nuts. I mean, anybody who thinks this is a good idea, they're either not a parent or they're not serious for sure. And maybe they're just trying to sell clickbait. Maybe they're desperate for some extra clicks, because I got to tell you that anyone who thinks giving an abuser an award or a reward for doing something wrong is going to change their behavior, they're only right in one way. It's going to make sure that they repeat, and even worse. That's just how it works. Abusers do not respect kindness. They
well,
take
this
advantage of it.
so I believe the goal was not to change or address Donald Trump's behavior, but it was meant to, the gesture of pardoning him was meant to be a gesture towards the right side of the country, to his followers, to help bring down the tension. And I'm speaking not as somebody who agrees with this at all. I don't.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm speaking as someone who understands where the insane
So,
suggestion came
so
from.
if you want to
They
send
think
the
that
message, right?
they
If you want
think
to
that
send to them, look, if you
if
want to
you
send the message,
pardon Donald Trump, that it's going to make them say, you know what, Joe Biden's all right. He's not so bad. Those Democrats, they're okay.
look, this is what happens. I'll just describe the scenario. So the Republicans, aka here in Miami-Dade, the Nascent Proud Boy Party, you pardon Donald Trump, and they say, well, why aren't you going to pardon those of us who stormed the Capitol? If Trump is not wrong, why did you wrong us? And you're giving him a break. Or they're just going to go, this guy is so weak, he's afraid of us. Okay. And the next time we have an election, they're not going to show up with zip ties. They're going to show up with fucking bazookas, dude. I mean, I am not kidding you. Like, you're going to have thousands of armed, insane people showing up at the Capitol anytime there's an election if you pardon this guy. Because pardoning him, he's the head of a movement. He is not just a guy. And whatever difficulties this country may have because we hold him accountable like anybody else, like we should, because we have a rule of law, not a rule of man, pardoning him will make those difficulties multiply to the point where our system fails. Our system is not designed for mass, constant civil disobedience. Our system is designed for majority compliance, minority enforcement. And giving the green light to the violent individuals that support Donald Trump to say, you can go to Congress now, overturn any election you want, because this guy got pardoned and you'll be able to vote for him. And if you can't vote for him, well, maybe you'll just be mowing down the people that don't vote for him or trying to overturn the next election after a bunch of lies. The end result is all the same. There's all the in between is just sausage. If you pardon him between now and 2024, you'll have an armed mob. They will destroy our capital in 2024, short of a literal shooting war with armed forces. And if they were to get him back into office, he would just pardon them all, and that would be it. We have seen that the Republican Party is most comfortable with the naked exercise of power. Appeasing, naked exercise of power is nothing other than submission. I choose to resist.
I think the worst problem with this proposition is that the writers of this idea about, pardoning Trump, they assume that the people that you want to appease, the Trump supporters, they're making the assumption that they are reasonable people. Because a reasonable person, when offered an olive branch, right? Because that's basically what this would be. This pardon would be to say, look, you know what? It's time for us to come back together as a nation. That shit is not going to work because, one, they don't think that Donald Trump has done anything wrong. That's number one. Number two, everything that they don't like is fake news. Number three, if Joe Biden were to pardon Donald Trump today, and let's say the midterms, worst case, the worst thing happens, the Republicans sweep. It's a bloody mess. It's Republicans reclaim the Senate and the House, but Donald Trump pardons. Joe Biden pardons Donald Trump. The very next day after they reclaim, they're going to start going after Dr. Fauci.
Oh, yeah. They would listen.
They're going to impeach Joe Biden. They're going to impeach Merrick Garland, Nancy Pelosi, everybody.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, it would be a bloodbath.
Us.
Look, I could literally see Trump installing someone as the attorney general and giving him an office in the White House, telling him who to prosecute. And when somebody shows up to take them away, writing out pardons every day. I mean, the guy doesn't care. And furthermore, there's something else about giving Trump a pardon that's really perverse, which is that, if you give him a free pass, right? Like, all of a sudden you're really telling his supporters you could just do anything,
As long as you threaten violence. Yeah.
as long as you threaten violence. And so at what point do you stop? Right? At what point do you stop giving out these get out of jail free cards? This is not Monopoly, people.
Yep.
Okay. And if it was, I would want to play against Donald Trump because he went bankrupt playing, real estate games in Atlantic City. Okay. But
I'm the smartest guy. I don't pay taxes.
it's absurd, man. It should not be done. I mean, the fact of the matter is, that's the last thing. If Joe Biden, and this is what the writers don't care about, don't notice, like they're thinking, David Brooks thoughts or something. I don't know. Tom Friedman, he's another one of those brilliant centrist radicalism dreams and fairy tales. But do you know what happens if Joe Biden pardons Donald Trump? I mean, forget
What?
if. It completely takes all of the air out of the Democratic base. The resistance, it kills it. It literally kills the resistance. The bedrock of American civil society today is millions of people who will stand up for democracy, facts, and the rule of law applied to those facts, which is justice. Okay? You take the justice out of the equation, and it's going to be like letting the air out of the bottle. That's why the House impeached Donald Trump, even though they knew that it would be impossible to get a conviction in the Senate the first time, because they knew that letting him get away with crimes of office that we know about would basically be a tantamount to turning the country over to an authoritarian fascist regime, because people would just give up. And who could blame them? If you've just spent the last 5 years donating, voting, organizing, protesting, tweeting, reading, talking, eating, breathing, shitting, and sleeping the resistance, and then at the end of the day, when your goal is in sight, somebody to be held accountable based on the facts and the law, why would you get out of bed anymore? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And these are very irresponsible journalists pretending that this is even on the table. It's just not on the table. If Gerald Ford hadn't been a member of Nixon's party,
these come across as opinion columns.
They are,
as opposed columns.
But opinion. Listen, opinion journalists are journalists, and they're irresponsible ones at best. They're not writing about something with a realistic chance, and further, they don't understand how inherently damaging their ideas are. Maybe these people all committed crimes and want pardons too, because I'll tell you what, a lot of people said nice things about Trump and then went out and asked for pardons. See Judge Piro's husband, for example, or Stephen K. Bannon, or Roger Stone, or Mike Flynn.
Indeed.
Or Duncan Hunter, or he pardoned like 10 different criminal Republican Congress people. I'm surprised he didn't get to Mark Foley for his pedophilia. But, I guess there wasn't a pardon involved there. He was just awful. But, he left out Hastert and his pedophilia. I mean, I'm surprised, I thought that the Republican Party was like no pedophile left behind. I mean, we saw another Trump campaign chairman who was arrested for molesting children, like just this past week. Honestly, it's a sad and backwards and scary party to look at. As an American, I don't recognize it as a mainstream American political party anymore, because they've become addicted to seeking out criminals, empowering them, and then giving them absolution without punishment and without accountability. Look at Matt Bevin, the former Kentucky governor. This is not an isolated incident. It's not just Trump. It's a pattern. And boy, any opinion columnist so ignorant to say that Donald Trump should get a free pass, well, I think they should move somewhere like North Korea because they may be more comfortable somewhere where the leaders of the country get a free pass to do whatever they want.
Indeed.
Indeed.
All right. So, Grant, we are now at the part of the show, which is, excuse me, my favorite part of the show.
It is
good.
The
guessing game.
Love for that.
The guessing game part of the show. And I'm going to give you a choice between two categories, only two, right? The first one is name that Billy Joel song.
Okay.
Or two. And
in this category for me.
In this one, I would be singing the lyrics to a Billy Joel song. You have to name what song it is. And in the other one, this is Who the Faheezy. And in this one, I show you a picture of part of a person's face. And these are both Democrats and Republican faces, both in politics and on TV. And you would have to identify which person this is.
This is tough choices. I'm going to go with the Billy Joel songs.
Billy Joel. Ah, all right. You were the first person to take the bait on that one. All right. So, are you ready for the first one?
I'm ready.
So you're a Billy Joel fan? Is that it?
Yeah, I like Billy Joel. My first ever concert when I was in junior high was Billy Joel Stormfront. So if Stormfront is the first song, I'm ready.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You go way back. All right. Here's the first one. Slow down, you crazy child. You're so ambitious for a juvenile, but then if you're so smart, tell me why are you still so afraid?
Is that Only the Good Die Young?
Where's the what?
Only the Good Die Young?
Oh, I'm so sorry. We were looking for Vienna. When will you realize Vienna waits for you? All right. Well, don't get down on yourself. We still got a few more.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself. Here's the next one. All the waiters in your grand cafe leave their tables when you blink. Oh,
it's the Italian restaurant song. That's what it's called, right? The Italian restaurant, yeah? What's it called? It's the Italian restaurant song. I know what you're talking about. No?
I'm so sorry. We're looking for don't wait for answers. Just take your chances. Don't ask me why.
What song is that? You didn't tell me the song.
Don't ask me why is the name of the song.
Don't ask me why?
That's from Glass Houses.
Yeah, I was just listening to the Italian restaurant songs. So it's,
okay. Here's the next one.
Going deep. I like it.
A bottle of white.
Okay, this is the one.
Bottle of red.
Right. Yes, this is the Italian restaurant song. Okay, I got it. At least one out of the three.
There you go. We were looking for scenes from an Italian restaurant. You ready for the next one?
Okay, let's do it.
Well, you went uptown riding in your limousine and with your fine Park Avenue clothes. You had the Dom Perignon in your hand and the spoon up your nose. Ooh, and when you wake up in the morning with your head on fire and your eyes too bloody to see, go and cry in your coffee, but don't come bitching to me.
Oh, I can hear the chords of this one. Hear the chords of this one. Dun, 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 dun. It's Do I get a replay? Just, I can hear the song in my head, but I can't think of the name here. You get Big Shot. Yes.
Yes, you did it. Hold on. Here we go. We were looking for Big Shot. Well done. And we have people in the audience who are also guessing along with you.
Well, I was definitely guessing there. I was like, wait a minute. You're gonna be a big shot, aren't you?
Okay. Yeah. You ready for the next one?
I'm ready.
She can kill with a smile. She can wound with her eyes.
But she'll always be a lady to me.
Ah, there we go. You saved me from having to hit those high notes there.
That's what I'm here for. Always a woman.
She's always a woman to me.
There you go,
yeah. Okay. Here's the next one. You ready?
I'm ready.
Bobby's driving through the city tonight, through the lights in a hot new rent-a-car. He joins a lover in his heavy machine. It's a scene down on Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, man. I'm just going to take a wild guess, like Saturday Night or something, right? I don't know. I missed it.
We were looking for
Say Goodbye to
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Say goodbye, my baby.
Yeah, it's not on my playlist for some reason. That's not a popular one. I don't know.
All right, let's see. Here's the next one. You got to get this one.
Okay.
Or else Billy Joel will be very disappointed in you. Very disappointed.
Are you going to tell him?
You know, I think you might have done better in the facial recognition thing.
I wanted a challenge here, okay? My girlfriend always said I should be on Jeopardy, so I went for the challenge.
Here's the next one.
By the way, she's really like Hurdle. You ever use Hurdle?
No.
There's a Wordle for songs, and it's called Hurdle.
I've seen that.
She's badass at it. I'm terrible.
If you search for tenderness, it isn't hard to find. You can have the love you need to live. But if you look for truthfulness, you might just as well be blind. It always seems to be so hard to give. Dun, dun, da, 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 dun, dun. Anybody?
Just the way you are.
This is a spectacular crash and burn. We're looking for honesty. Wait, that's not the right one.
Well, no.
Wait, I didn't even. Oh my Lord!
Wait a second. Is that goodbye? Say goodbye to Hollywood again? Okay.
No. I just went back on there. I messed up my. Let's see. Okay. I see what I did.
Whoa, for the longest time.
Okay, so all right, here's the final one. I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself on this one right here. This one. Come out, Virginia, don't let me wait. You Catholic girls start much too late. But sooner or later it comes down to fate. I might as well be the one. Well, they showed you a statue, told you to pray. They built you a temple and locked you away. But they never showed you the price that you pay for things that you might have done.
'Cause only the good die young. Da, 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 da.
There
Yep.
you go. You completely redeemed yourself with singing along with me. Thank you very
Okay,
much, my
good.
friend.
Well, that made the whole show, I think.
Indeed, indeed. It's not an easy. It is. I'll tell you this. For me, it's fun, but I realize it's not easy to be on the spot and to have to answer these trivia questions that you weren't prepared for.
Oh
But
no, this ain't American Ninja, dude. I survived it. It's
well
awesome. I
done,
like it.
well done. Well, Grant, I want to thank you for coming on this show today. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, BDD. This is a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to do it, you know? Like, I've been looking
Uh,
forward to this.
do you have any advice for our viewers in how to deal with the next 2 or 3 months ahead? It's going to be stressful. Any words of wisdom for the audience here?
So, if you're experiencing anxiety, I suggest you go get a medical card. I mean, this is not going to look, I don't think it's going to be as stressful. I think that it was more stressful if we were in the political environment of 6 months ago. Really, we've seen a massive change in political momentum, unlike anything we've seen in our lifetimes. I mean, this is like I said, it's a 9/11 level event in American politics. The stress is now behind us. We're all harder and stronger because of the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years of standing up to some of the most crazy things we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now we're on the other side. So go at it with a light heart. Don't lean into the stress. Lean into the fact that the Democratic Party and democracy itself have gained momentum over the forces that wanted to take this country away from you, from me, from our children, and take our country's birthright away from our children. Those forces are on the retreat. They've been exposed. Their agenda has been exposed. As stressful as it is today, we know that there's a majority, a strong and vocal majority that's ready to show up at the polls and vote things to be better for the first time in a generation. Okay. And this is an event that Republicans worked for an entire generation. And you see the reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be stressed. Be
You
relieved.
you are.
Nothing
So
could get worse than what's happened. Right now, it's time to just patiently and happily march until eventually that march winds up at a polling place and you punch the hell out of that ballot box. Okay? You hit those ballots with everything you've got. I mean, with your pen. Until there's so many more of them and so many fewer of theirs that things continue to get better. And it's within sight. I mean, even the Republicans are reticent about their many choices, all the way from Roe to Trump to their Senate candidates. And it's time to make them pay for those bad choices at the ballot box.
So you are ultimately more optimistic about um, the picture for Democrats in general and for America. For Democrats specifically and for America in general.
That's right. When Democrats win elections, America benefits, and that's what President Dark Brandon has shown us, and Joe Biden too. I think he's around there somewhere. Um, that's what Democrats have done. They didn't say we're going to pass a bunch of bills to tax New York and give the money to Florida like the Republicans did. They went out and they said we're going to do the right thing. We're going to show people why we're the best choice. And for the first time, it looks like that is going to really be rewarded in a midterm election by the party in power. So go out there and volunteer for your House of Representatives races. those are going to be very close. Senate races too, especially. But I mean, the House races, that's where the biggest battleground is. Even Darth McConnell said it. So listen to Darth. He's not kidding. We've got to fight for the House tooth and nail. We can never let Kevin McCarthy put the word speaker in front of his name, except at a chicken dinner. I'll leave it at that.
Grant, where can people catch you on, and when, on the report card? The report card, you and Scott are doing that show?
Yeah, so the report card is going to come back on Twitter Spaces in September. Definitely just follow me at Grant Stern on Twitter. I have a personal website, which is grantstern.com. And that's a great place to just catch up on all the random stuff because I have so many different columns and books and newsletters. Actually, my Substack newsletter is on there, and that's a fun place to subscribe because that's where I post all the stories about the National Security Division of the DOJ's investigation into the DeSantis administration, or, Sidney Powell breaking the law with all of her fundraising, or the next story I have coming out, which is going to be about leaked national security documents that is, just stuff that you don't see everywhere. It's all investigative reports in there. And of course, check out OccupyDemocrats.com, the DworkinReport.com for the episodic podcast, which we're bringing back in September as well, with a new subscription program and bonus episodes. And Scott has his daily Dworkin podcast now. So we're going to be really pumping things out, and GrantStern.com is a great place to just catch all of my stuff and figure out where to go from there.
I was going to say, Grant, you are chock full of information. Can folks find the links to a lot of those sites on your site, grantstern.com?
Yeah. That's right. You go to my website, grantstern.com, and the menu has all the podcast, the different columns, and right there on the front page, you can subscribe to the newsletter and get the news mailed to you from time to time. And my newsletter subscribers do get to find out when live podcasts and when the start of the report card is, the new next series, and all that fun stuff. It's right there.
There you go, folks. Make sure you go to grantstern.com, subscribe to his newsletter, and also give Grant a follow on Twitter at Grant Stern. And Grant, I want to thank you again for coming by to Storytime with BDD. And I look forward to seeing you here again in this space between now and the midterms.
That sounds like a plan, man. I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Now, stay put. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to see you on the other side. Let me sign off with my viewers here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining me for another engaging and entertaining, hopefully, episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. If you have not yet gotten your shot, make sure you go and get one as soon as possible. Wear your mask, keep your social distance 6 feet or better, and I will see you here, same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.